Good morning, ladies. Happy Monday. I hope everybody is well. Hopefully you had a nice weekend. Let's start this day and let's get it going. We are on week 5, day 1 of Journey to Freedom from Daily Grace Co., a study on the life of Moses. And today it asks that we read Exodus chapter 33. And today's topic of discussion is the friend of God. And today's devotion goes like this. After the plague passes, the Israelites emerge out of the rubble and ruin. Scripture is not specific about the impact of the plague on the camp or if there were any life loss as a result, but it is clear that what remains is a broken relationship with God. Perhaps knowing that the plague God sent was just a punishment for their idol worship of the golden calf, it does not seem that the people voice claims of unfair treatment. The Israelites appear to realize the goodness and righteousness of God's justice and feel the weight of their sin. The Lord comes to Moses and tells him to continue the journey to the land of Canaan with the people Moses brought out of Egypt. God does not claim the Israelites as his people, but hands them over to Moses. Like a marriage trust that has been betrayed by adultery, the covenant relationship has been violated. But God is still faithful to his promises, and he will still give the Israelites the promised land. Instead of journeying with the Israelites through the wilderness, however, he will send an angel ahead to prepare the land for their settlement. Since the Israelites are corrupted by their moral impurity, the holy God cannot dwell in their midst lest the people be destroyed by his glory. God is not throwing a tantrum, but he is protecting them and showing them that the result of sin is separation from God. When the people hear of this news, they mourn and do not put on jewelry, the object that likely reminds them of their sin. The people are remorseful instead of joyful. They will still receive the bountiful land, Canaan. They know what they need and desire most of all is God. Separation from God leads Moses to intercede. On Mount Sinai, Moses had received God's instructions on building the tabernacle, an ornate and portable tent structure in which God will dwell on the route to Canaan. The thought of God no longer dwelling in the center of the camp troubles Moses. He knows he is unable to lead the people through the wilderness by himself. He goes to God to speak about his concerns. At a distance from the people, Moses pitches a makeshift tent outside the campsite called the Tent of Meeting. With his assistant Joshua at his side, Moses enters the structure, and God, clothed in a pillar of cloud, descends at the tent's entrance. The people far away from this encounter are grateful for the Lord's distant appearance and are moved to worship. Inside the tent, God speaks with Moses face to face with an expression for his intimate presence. They speak life one friend to another. Moses is vulnerable and pours out his heart to the loving God. Moses expresses that the Israelites are God's people. Moses knows the goal of the covenant is intimacy with God, not a territorial occupation. Moses also emphasized his desire to know God the way God knows him. Though Moses has a special relationship with God, he is still limited in his understanding. By his affection towards Moses, the faithful mediator, God says he will give Moses rest. Scholars note that the use of the singular pronoun you, Y-O-U, in these verses suggests that God is promising to Moses alone. God will give Moses peace to ease his worries about leading. Moses responds to include the Israelites as recipients of God's favor. To radiate God's glory to the nations, Moses pleads for God to go with them. Revealing his faithfulness, God concedes to Moses' intercession. Because of God's favor and intimate relationship with Moses, God will also show the Israelites favor and restore relational harmony. In today's passage, we see 2 important narrative elements. 2. 1, Moses' inability to lead the people alone. And 2, the intimacy between God and Moses. Moses knows he needs divine assistance on the route to Canaan. We can't do things by ourselves. He pleads for the Lord's loving presence and protection to complete his mission. But to save his people from sin and bring them to his kingdom, God himself in this person of Jesus Christ completes this mission. In Jesus, God clothed himself in flesh and dwelt among his people. Now, the Spirit of Jesus continues to dwell in our hearts, continuing God's redemptive mission until Jesus returns. Secondly, the intimacy between God and Moses shows that the relational reconciliation with God happens through the beloved mediator who asks for God's mercy. Through the intimate relationship between the Father and Jesus, we see that God not only bestows favor, but also advocates for it. In Jesus, we have confidence that God's disposition towards us is good, even when we fall short. God ultimately seeks our well-being and restoration from sin. Through the intercession and saving work of Jesus, we know that God is our advocate and looks favorably upon us. We are friends of God, referenced in John chapter 15, verse 15. And we can trust that in the unfailing bond between the Father and Son, we can also have peace and intimacy with God. That is all for today's devotion. We have 3 questions, which I will also post at the bottom of the video. First one is, when was a time you felt separated from God due to sin? Second question is, how could seeing God as a friend affect your prayer life? And lastly, how does Moses' pursuit to witness God's glory move your pursuit to know God? And that is all for today. I hope you ladies enjoyed it. If you would like to talk about it, send me messages. Love talking with you ladies throughout the day. I hope you have a blessed week. Let's start this right. Talk to you soon.